This is the Strait of Hormuz. It is a geographical bottleneck barely 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, separating the Arabian Peninsula from the Iranian coastline. To understand the economic weight of this corridor, look at the distribution of global oil transit. Between 20 and 25% of the world's entire oil supply passes through this single point every day. To secure this transit and deter a total blockade, the United States has deployed 5,000 Marine commandos directly to the waterway. Control over this narrow strip of water is a prerequisite for global economic stability. If this flow stops, major industries across Europe and Asia face an immediate energy crisis. The core of the U.S. deployment rests on amphibious assault ships like the USS Wasp. These function as mobile, floating military cities. They feature multi-layered decks housing armored vehicles, medical facilities, and a specialized force of Marine commandos. These ships act as front-line air bases for fifth-generation F-35B stealth fighters. Because these jets utilize downward-directed engine thrust to hover, they can take off and land vertically without the need for a traditional runway. For rapid ground operations, the ship launches heavy-lift transport helicopters like the Super Stallion. These platforms can ferry large quantities of troops and carry heavy artillery pieces suspended directly beneath them to the landing zone. The USS Wasp concentrates billions of dollars in hardware and thousands of personnel into a single hull. Stationed just 150 kilometers from the coast, this massive, multi-layered platform represents a high-density target in a theater shifting towards decentralized tactics. U.S. air superiority is facing a direct challenge from specialized threats in the Iranian battlespace. Even high-performance jets like the F-15 Eagle, built for precision ground attacks, are finding the environment increasingly hostile. This vulnerability extends to specialized ground attack platforms like the A10 Warthog, despite its heavy armor, and despite its dedicated close air support role, it is susceptible to the anti-air systems currently deployed in the region. The mechanical reality of jet flight creates a thermal signature that is completely impossible to hide from the enemy. Engine exhausts generate heat between 400 and 600 degrees Celsius, which infrared missiles lock onto. Pilots deploy flares to confuse them, but modern sensors analyze the physical size, ignoring small flares to maintain lock on the jet. This precision targeting also threatens support aircraft, crippling the U.S. military's ability to coordinate the battlefield. Adversaries are specifically aiming for structural weak points, like the tail stabilizers and radar domes of AWACS planes. Stealth technology can cost billions, but it doesn't change the basic physics of flight. When a missile can lock onto heat alone, the traditional advantage of a high-tech air force begins to erode. To protect the fleet, the U.S. relies on the Close-In Weapon System, or CIWS, a radar-guided rotary cannon designed to intercept incoming projectiles automatically. The system is built for extreme volume, firing 6,000 rounds per minute to create a physical barrier of lead between the ship and a threat. Asymmetric forces counter this strategy with saturation. By launching hundreds of cheap drones simultaneously, they force the defense grid to track too many targets. Once the ship exhausts its ammunition destroying small drones, an open window is created for heavy ballistic missiles to strike. A multi-billion-dollar naval defense can be neutralized by mathematically exhausting its resources with a few $1 million worth of coordinated, low-cost equipment. Asymmetric strategy shifts the focus toward the civilian infrastructure that supports U.S. allied Arab nations in the Persian Gulf. Much of the region relies entirely on industrial desalination plants for drinking water. These massive facilities are fragile nodes in the national infrastructure, and they are highly vulnerable to targeted strikes. Attacks here can utilize radioactive materials or chemical toxins to poison the water supply system. Rather than just destroying the buildings, this method renders the entire utility unusable. Compromising a single infrastructure node weaponizes the desert environment itself. The resulting humanitarian crisis would likely force regional governments to end their involvement in the conflict. This strategy of disruption is already moving beyond Iran's borders. Decentralized proxy groups in Yemen are now threatening secondary maritime choke points along the Red Sea. If the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab-el-Mandeb Strait are both closed, 40% of all global shipping routes are severed. Global trade would be forced into a massive, weeks-long detour around the entire continent of Africa. These decentralized militias are operating with sophisticated oversight. They are allegedly receiving real-time satellite telemetry and logistical data through covert partnerships with Russia and China. Modern supremacy is no longer defined by the sheer concentration of military power. It is being redefined by the ability of asymmetric forces to systematically sever the interconnected arteries of the global world.